the most anticipated earnings releases for the week of August 5th, 2024. Presented by Earnings Whispers. Last week, there were nearly 1,000 companies that reported earnings. But if you thought that was a lot, just wait until this week. The number is going to increase by more than a third, or nearly a total of 1,300 companies to report. So, yeah, we'll be busy. If there is a common theme among those reporting, is that investors have mostly become bearish going into their earnings release. There are, of course, some exceptions, such as those selling GLP-1 drugs. But investors are bearish going into earnings on the majority of the stocks. Don't get carried away with this, though, because it isn't at an extreme. But 57% of those reporting have investors bearish going into the news. We are going to get the company at the top of most investors' list this week out of the way early, when Palantir reports after the close on Monday. Is the AI trade over with recent weakness in Nvidia? Or are we moving on to the next phase of the AI roadmap? Palantir might be the key to answering that question. Hims and Hers is a growth story, so the company needs to assure that growth is going to continue or even accelerate. That spike you see in the stock with a large jump in volume came with the announcement that it is going to sell GLP-1 drugs. So an update on GLP-1 sales will be important, but no more important than that gap. Supermicro has rested its hat on Nvidia, so if there is a reason that Nvidia is selling off, it is going to likely result in weakness in Supermicro. On the other hand, Supermicro's results on Tuesday are likely to tell us a lot about Nvidia's results at the end of the month. Uber missed expectations last quarter due to losses in its equity positions in some small technologies companies, which focus on mobility and delivery. That didn't really change the results of operations, but the stock did gap lower on the news, and the stock has now gone to new lows ahead of earnings. The company has checked well during the quarter, but those investments haven't likely outperformed during the quarter. On Wednesday, we'll get results from Shopify before the open. There is a secular growth story going on with Shopify, and the company is growing into a complete point-of-sale service for retailers. But retailers aren't exactly seeing strong growth as the consumer slows, and the company failed to beat expectations last quarter, which has weighed on the stock since. Disney will report about 30 minutes before Shopify, and it has its own issues, but the string of movies coming out should help as everything else seems to be holding up. Sentiment, however, reached a multi-year low late in 2023 and continued lower into the start of the year, but late this quarter, sentiment improved to its highest level in a couple of years. It isn't giving a signal at this point, but that sentiment seems more of a headwind now as the stock approaches its lows going into earnings. At the top of the list on Thursday is Eli Lilly, which reports before the open. GLP-1. Yeah, they've got that. The company gave rather strong guidance last quarter, and the stock subsequently broke above $800. Now the stock is back at $800, so it likely needs to hold a support from here. After the close, the focus will turn to SoundHound, which is a sub-$5 stock, so we won't touch it no matter what. But this young company is starting to attract short interest. The stock first jumped to above $4 on heavy volume in February, and every 2 weeks since then, short interest has increased. All while the stock holds above $4. Friday will be a little lighter than we've seen recently, at least among companies with analyst coverage. Investors' focus will be on another cannabis stock and another EV stock. Yeah, who knows? The market sold off last week, which naturally increases volatility, but we move on to more small cap stocks, which also tend to be more volatile. So expect big moves this week. Open lending stands out as the stock trends lower despite the strength in some of its peers, and options are pricing in a much bigger move on earnings than we've seen recently. But this stock has gotten small, and that skews the data a little. As the calendar moves out, we see a holiday-shortened week at the beginning of September, but the last week of August fills in. Besides Nvidia, CrowdStrike told us last week when they will report. You may have heard of them too. Are you gonna buy ahead of that?
Shh.